Hi, friends. Hello. Welcome to Lead to Gold. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for being here and for tuning in for episode 9. And if you're new, welcome in. I sincerely hope that you will stick around, that this podcast brings you a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of joy, a little bit of inspiration, whatever it may be. I hope that it brings something of goodness into your life. And like I said, I'm so freaking happy you're here. My name is Erin, and I do this podcast because I am passionate about conversations that center growth and wellness and just generally getting through anything in life that is difficult and trying to come out on the other side. No matter how long it takes, no matter how hard the trip is, I believe that it is possible, especially if we have a community to do it with. And that's what I hope to cultivate here. So welcome in. Welcome in. Today's episode is all about healing the earth. And before I get too into it, I am not going to suggest in any way, shape, or form that this is the responsibility of you or that this is the responsibility of citizens at large. This is a job for the big players in this game that we call life. Our governments, our politicians, the people who make the decisions and who set them forward. Those are the people who are responsible for ultimately doing something about the climate crisis and leading us in a way that we will actually see change. So when I am talking about this topic, I am not suggesting that this is something that you must do or the earth is doomed. I hope we are kind of past that sort of analysis of the way things are going. I still think about this. I wonder if it's still kind of in the throes of the internet or if it's still maybe even up, but I'm not going to remember where it was. Maybe New York, maybe near Times Square. I don't know. But a few years ago, this sort of timer went up on a huge billboard somewhere where lots of people were passing it and seeing it every single day. And it had a countdown for basically when climate change is going to be irreversible and when it's going to be too late. And it kind of gave off the notion that, like, if we don't change things by this date, we're all going to die. And I don't know if you remember this or if this is ringing a bell. I should look it up. I really should. But it was terrifying and also got really, really bad press from most people, which I didn't think about initially, but I was so happy to see that most people's response to that political statement was very, very poorly received. It is not on us as civilians to fix Earth. Obviously, if we all come together, things will have a better outcome, but it's not our decision and we're not pulling the bulk of that weight. Just want to get that out of the way before I really get into the basis for my episode today. But regardless, even though this is not necessarily our responsibility, if you want to look at it that way, it is 1000% still something that we should care about. And that is where I want to go with today's episode. So before I get into the bulk of it, I did want to also mention that right off the bat, if you need or if you are looking for an easy way to make a difference in the climate action that is being taken, if you want to help contribute to any form of improvement, whether you are passionate about air quality or water quality or deforestation or whatever it may be, I have some good news for you. I'm doing another donation giveaway through Lead to Gold. It's super simple. The only thing that you would need to do to participate is either leave me a review on today's episode. Once you're finished listening to it, all you would need to do wherever you are, whatever app you're on, is give me a rating. And if you feel compelled to leave a comment as well, that's wonderful, but you don't have to. So that's one way. If you review this episode, I will be donating $5 for your rating to Project Drawdown, which is an amazing, wonderful, multifaceted organization that kind of just gives their funds and gives their help and their services where they see fit in the climate world. They use researchers, they use data scientists, all the information that they would need to make sure that where their money is going is where it is most needed. They're amazing. If you want to look more into what they do, I will put their website in the show notes. And that's not all. If you subscribe to my blog, Lead to Gold, the link for that is in the show notes as well, I will donate $5 to the Clean Air Task Force. They are a very similar organization. If you're interested in learning more about them, I will drop their information in the show notes as well. So $5 there for subscribing to my blog, $5 to Project Drawdown for rating my podcast. And it's super easy. I'm going to tally up just however many ratings I see across all platforms, however many subscriptions across my website, on posts, whatever. And at the end of the month, I will put all of that together in a donation and send it their way. So if you want to help out, feel free to do that and let your friends know as well. This is literally probably the easiest monetary way to give back to our dear Mother Earth. So thanks in advance if you choose to do so. And if you choose to share this with your friends, I would be so honored. Okay, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the topic for today, which is healing the earth by actually kind of healing ourselves, by going inward into ourselves. And this is going to sound very esoteric at the start, but I promise I will break it all down for us and figure out, how do these things connect? How does this actually help us do anything as far as the climate crisis that we are facing? I know as well as anyone that this feels extremely daunting because I cannot tell you how many nights I've stayed up way later than I would have hoped to, thinking about all of the horrible things that are going on with our planet and just feeling really defeated by the fact that sometimes it really feels like no one cares. Even though I know most people do, are we doing enough? And it feels like we're not. So what do we do? How do we actually get our heads together on this? In my last blog post, if you want to go check that out, again, show notes, it's called We Feel in Order to Heal. And I feel like that sort of lays out the framework for what I want to talk about today. I'm essentially taking that blog post and going deeper into the idea. But in that, I essentially scratched the surface on what I believe it's going to take for us as civilians, not as, an entire world, but as individual people. What is it going to take for us to really actually make strides in solving the climate crisis or in improving it at least? The bottom line is that we have to feel the weight of it. And I know that sounds daunting. I know that sounds really scary because we don't have to look far to know that this is a really big problem. And it is also easy to take that far enough to where we feel hopeless about it, like I was alluding to just a minute ago. But I truly don't think that we are going to make strides unless we get really, really serious about how serious this is. And if you are somebody who feels like you already do this, I'd like to consider myself somebody who already does this and already kind of just sits with that reality a lot. I would encourage you to, instead of really making yourself miserable over it, having conversations with your loved ones about it, especially those who you may feel like are not as aware of what's going on, or maybe who don't practice as much as you or want more information. They seem really curious, they seem really open, but they are maybe not on that same wavelength. And that's totally fine. I don't want to judge anybody for their current life habits, or how aware they are of what's going on, because that in and of itself can be a privilege sometimes. But really just spreading the word about this and having open, honest, and deep conversations about this, letting others know that this hurts you as much as it is possible to let them know that. So another thing that I also want to get very clear about is that, like, what does it actually mean to quote unquote feel the weight of this? For me, it doesn't really just stop at, like, you know, thinking about all of the climate crises that are happening. In fact, that is scratching the surface, and that's also probably one of the least beneficial things that you could do, because as we have also talked about on this podcast before, that may very well lead into thought spirals and doom scrolling in your brain or online, and it's just not really going to help with your mental health in the long run, because it is a pretty serious issue. What I mean more is getting out of your head a little bit and feeling the body. And when you think about what ails the earth and what is wrong and what we could improve upon, when you really think about the idea of the climate crisis, where do you feel it in your body? What gets heavy? What feels weighed down? And identify with it. Move through it. A lot of what I've been trying to focus on in my own spiritual practice lately is somatic healing, which means feeling these parts of your body that kind of flare up or that feel tender or feel painful or heavy when difficult emotions come up, and actually identifying them, giving them a shape, giving them a color, and sitting with them. So not pushing the feeling away, but rather sitting with it, moving through it, or honestly just letting it happen. Letting that kind of come and go in your body can do a world of good, especially when you're faced with something heavy. So another thing that I think can be really helpful in this is sharing that with other people, as I just mentioned, but not just having conversations about the climate crisis or climate change or strides in trying to help it, but feeling this sensation together and really empathizing with the way that other people experience their feelings with this. That can get really complicated, but I think just having an open discussion about it can really make a world of difference and can help you to also realize that you're not the only one who cares about this. This is something that I have had to learn to do, especially when I get frustrated and feeling like I'm alone in how much this bothers me. I know that this bothers a lot of other people, and having conversations with my friends, allowing them to kind of guide me in getting through it myself has really, really helped. Now, I do hear another question coming up, and that is the question of, okay, that all sounds great. I'm ready to sit with myself and establish my own relationship to my planet and my environment. I am ready to talk to my friends about this. In fact, I have already talked to my friends about this, and we facilitate frequent conversations. And if you're one of those people, amazing. Amazing. The question that I hear coming up, though, is, okay, but what if I have loved ones in my life who really, truly don't care or don't think that the climate crisis is real? What then? You know, how do we get these people to kind of, I don't want to say buy in, but at least care? How do we get these people to care? How do we get these people to respect the planet? And I don't want to be a downer, but I also don't want to give false information. I truly don't have a solid answer for this question. What I could suggest, and what I have tried to do in my own life, especially with my father, who is one of those people who doesn't believe that this is an issue, is approach it with love and understanding as much as you can. It's not worth getting in arguments over, although it is extremely tempting to do so. It's not worth straining your relationships with loved ones if they are not on the same page as you about this. These are not the people that are going to help us to actually move forward. But I do believe that there is lots and lots of hope in moving forward without the few who do not see this as an issue. So don't worry about it. And when I say don't worry about it, I don't mean like let that be necessarily okay. You can still feel however you choose to feel about, people that want to turn a blind eye to this, or to people who just outright deny it. I know that it sucks. I know I have been there, but what I guess I would offer you is don't worry so much about trying to win them over or to get them quote unquote on your side. It's really not worth it. All you can really do is share things that are interesting to you to them if you feel comfortable doing so, or, if you want to show them some of your practices, the things that you do in your life, whatever you feel comfortable with. Just don't cause yourself any unnecessary strain trying to win them over, because in the experiences that I have witnessed, it's not usually doable. Back into kind of leading ourselves through this journey, through this thought process, our relationship to Earth. If even now it still feels like kind of a foreign concept, like, okay, but how do I actually feel that feeling? It could be as simple as identifying how important the Earth is to you. Something that I've tried to do in the past with more difficult concepts, especially something like this that is not palpable. It's not physical. It's more of an invisible relationship, is journaling about it. So what does the Earth provide for me? That's a question that you could really get detailed about. On the surface, it feels obvious because it's like, well, I live on it. Everything that I own came from the Earth. Everything that I know is here on Earth. So that's a big question in and of itself. But if you break it down into smaller pieces, you can start to map out the parts of this planet that are important to you. Is nature important to you? Is gardening important to you? It doesn't even have to be outdoorsy related stuff that is important to you, but identifying what parts you want to protect can be helpful. Another thing that you may journal about, or you may just think about, talk about with your friends, is sort of spending time getting to know your lifestyle in relation to the Earth. No judgment here whatsoever. I'm going to share a couple of things that I do and that I'm trying to do more of. But if this is not something that you practice, or if you maybe feel like it's a big step to try to get into these practices, please don't worry about it. But these are just some ideas of things that come to mind for me. So again, you could journal these things. You could just think about them, talk with me about them. Do you frequently go outside? And if you do, where do you go? Do you like to sit in your backyard? Do you go on hikes? Is there a nice chunk of woods near you that you can kind of frolic in and get lost in? And when you are in those spaces, what do you notice? What comes to mind for you? Do you look at bugs? Do you hear the birds singing? Like, what are the things that you're getting present with? Even if it's as simple as like, oh my God, I'm so fucking hot and sweaty. Can you acknowledge that, that comes from the atmosphere, the air? Where's that sensation coming from? And even if you maybe don't appreciate it in the moment, imagine how good it would feel if you jumped in that nearby river. Maybe you decide today's the day you're going to actually do that. Maybe not. Some other things to think about. Your home practices. How quote unquote green are you? Are you practicing sustainability? Are you turning off the lights when you leave the house or opening your windows when you don't need the AC on? What are some of your home habits? These are some things to kind of just audit, I would say. And if you are getting curious about your relationship to Earth, to the climate crisis, to sustainability, good things to know. This is honestly something that I would like to get more specific about in my own life, because I do put a lot of attention on some things. For example, I absolutely hate when I forget my reusable bags to go to the grocery store. Like, it pains me to have to use plastic bags. I also use a shampoo bar, and I try to make my own laundry detergent. I use like the wool balls instead of the dryer sheets. And those are just some little sustainable swaps that work for me and help me out. Another thing, are you aware of climate policies and changes? How up to date are you on these things? How often do you look into them? How often are you trying to seek out new information? And again, this is not something that you necessarily have to do all the time because, as I've mentioned, it can get a little bit depressing sometimes. So if the news is not something that really helps you in this department, I would say don't worry about it. But it is nonetheless important to be at least a little bit informed and, if nothing else, kind of know where you can lend a hand in these areas, right? So all of this stuff is stuff that you can do on your own or with a partner or with a roommate, with the people that are close to you in life, to kind of help join forces a little bit and see, well, what are we doing and maybe what could we do better? Especially if this is a topic that you care about, if you are somebody who is scared of the future of our climate, these are some really good conversations to have. Even if they just start in your head and then slowly move to the journal and then slowly move to your social circles. Regardless, great things to talk about, great things to think about. So let's get into it. Let's start it. I would really invite you to spend some time reflecting on these questions and more that come to mind for you. So I'll kind of list them one more time. If this is something that you want to journal about or talk to me about, talk to your friends about, here they are one more time. So when you are in your outdoor spaces, where do you go? What do you notice? How, quote unquote, green are you? What are your home habits? What are some things in your home that you may be able to swap out for more sustainable options, or some things that you would like to try as far as, environmentally friendly purposes? Are you aware of climate policies and changes? Is this something that comes up on your news feed? Are you following people who talk about this? And consider also if this is something that would even really benefit your mental health in the first place. Be very wary of the people that you follow, because although the news is very important to know, some people and some organizations and places can twist it and make it sound a lot more negative and a lot more dire than it might be right in this moment in time. So just kind of, err on the side of caution of that. I don't want anybody doom scrolling. We never want to doom scroll. Not a good time. Okay. Moving on from that, some other thoughts on just kind of going inward, taking stock of your own life. What are some habits that you currently have that you might be able to tweak, or that you are actually quite proud of, that kind of reflect care for Earth? Even though this is, again, not going to save Earth by itself, because you are just one person and you're not a big, great decision maker in how our societies run, it does help us align with the ideal of I am an earth healer. I am somebody who cares. I am somebody who wants to make a change and see a change. being able to identify any habits that you currently have and work toward improving them, that can be a great step in that way. Something for me would be getting a little bit more educated about the types of plants that I grow in my garden. Something that I love to learn about, but really did not have a lot of education on until quite recently, was native plants. And now I really try to steer clear of planting anything that is not native to this area or that does not grow well in the zone that I live in. So I'm a little bit of a gardener. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but it is something that I love to do. This is something that is really important to me. And I know now from doing more extensive research that planting native species, and in my case, native perennials, which means the plants come back every year, helps with keeping local ecosystems thriving. And let me tell you, I'm going to get a little nerdy for a second, but in my front garden, I planted all kinds of purple and white flowers. And I was not expecting this at all, but the first year that I had it, I planted these little aster bushes. And asters are these adorable little flowers. They're my favorite flower. I had these purple ones. And they were just cute little bushes, right? But they come back every year. So the following year, they started leafing up and getting huge in like early April. So this time a year ago. And they are fall blooming flowers, mind you. So this was wild to me. But they were already getting huge. And then in the summer, their stalks started growing way, way up. And I was like, what the heck? Is that even the same plant? And by fall, they were so freaking big and just kind of overtook everything. But I thought they looked so beautiful because they were just purple up against the white brick of my house. And I have a lavender colored door. And oh my God, it just looks so good. But here's the thing though. I have never in my life seen so many bumblebees in one place. And maybe to some people that sounds a little bit scary, but I was so happy. I can't even describe to you like how happy it made me to just come home at the end of the day and in the afternoon, see all of the bees and just hear them buzzing around the flowers that I planted. And I was like, oh my God, I did this. Like I helped out the earth a little bit and it felt so good. I did get stung right on the ass by one day, but I'm choosing to forgive. It was worth it to see all of the joy from the bees, and it lasted months. And I just was so happy about that. So if this is something that you feel like you might have a similar reaction to it, I encourage you to start a garden, or at the very least, just find some habits that you can get into that would, spark joy and make you feel like you are actually making a little bit of a difference, no matter how small. Because to me, that was a teeny difference that felt really good. So, okay, where are we now? As we're talking about all of these habits, I'm noticing that I'm sort of undulating between things within you, like your thoughts, your feelings, and then things that surround you in your home specifically. When I get to next week's or next 2 weeks podcast, I'm planning on talking a little bit more about outward things that we can do. But for today, I just want to kind of hone in on your local world and, within yourself. So any other suggestions that you all can think of to kind of help gather these habits and start figuring out what is going to give you the motivation to keep working on saving our planet? And do you even need that motivation? Do you think maybe the people around you might need it more than you do? How can we facilitate these conversations? The last thing that I will say as a suggestion for getting yourself in this headspace is actually kind of like treating your body and also your home as a sanctuary, because at the end of the day, Earth is our biggest sanctuary. We live here. We would not be alive. We would not be anywhere without this planet, right? And the health of it depends on our health. Or sorry, is that the other way around? Our health depends on the health of the Earth. There we go. So, smaller ways that we can reflect this idea would be to treat ourselves, our bodies, as a sanctuary in the same way that we want to treat the earth as a sanctuary. Feeding yourself good food, making sure that you feel healthy and that you feel rested and clean and whatever else. This gets into the self-care conversation that we've had a couple times on this show, but making sure that you feel at home within yourself. And that doesn't come easily. Trust me, I'm way oversimplifying this right now, but making sure that you are at least taking care of yourself to the point that you can then go out and take care of things that are larger than you. In a similar vein, treating your home as your sanctuary. It is no fun, we all know this, to come home from work after a shitty day to a dirty, smelly, trashy home, right? Whatever that means for you. I know people have a different standard of cleanliness than others, but if you come home and it is not up to your own standards, that is not going to feel good. So trying to find ways to kind of build in time to care for the home. Not necessarily scrub down every single tile and dust out all the carpets. Like, I'm not getting that into it, but it is the time of spring cleaning. So if it's something that you enjoy doing, now is a perfect time to realign your home with your values and with what makes you feel comfortable and healthy. If we're able to align all of this stuff and we're feeling good about it, we're feeling refreshed, we're feeling clean and healthy, it becomes easier to then take this one step further and bring it out into the world and to find new ways of bringing ourselves to a state that we can actually try to help make a difference, right? Doing the self-care, doing the home care shows that you care. It shows that you have a great respect for yourself and for the space that you live in. And it also leads to having a greater respect for the planet that you live on as well. And I do believe that there's a connection between these things because I have seen it not only in myself, but in many friends. And it just kind of makes sense to me. So start small and slowly branch out. I know slow is not everyone's favorite term to use with this issue because if anything, we need to have come up with some solutions like yesterday or decades ago rather. But if we don't start, we're never going to get anywhere, you know? So figure out what your place is in helping out. And for right now, if that means kind of sticking to yourself, figuring out your needs, going inward and establishing your relationship with your outer landscape, that is where you should spend your time for the time being. I hope that makes sense. I feel like it makes a lot of sense in my head, but if you ever have any questions or want to talk more about these topics, feel free to DM me on Instagram at led.2.gold. I'm always so excited to hear from you all about what you think about the episodes or these conversations, and I definitely want to continue the conversation. If it's not already obvious, I think I mentioned this on Instagram actually a couple days ago, but I really used to foster a strong connection to the earth and to my sort of climate activism, and my conversations with others were very centered on this. I haven't done that in a while. I've been a little bit away from that passion project, if you will. I wouldn't even call it a project really, but just like I haven't given as much thought and dedication to it lately. And now is not the time to look away from it. I think if anything, I should be looking more directly at the issue. And I want to have conversations about it. So I'm here if you want to talk, and if you have questions, happy to try to help find an answer. Okay? Cool. All right. We're going to finish up today's episode with a little We're Not Really Strangers, as per usual, and see what card we get. In addition to any journaling that you have done with the questions I asked before, feel free to add this one to the page as well. And also always down to talk and share some responses. Okay. I feel like I might have had this one on one of my guest episodes, but maybe not. What's one thing, big or small, that you're most looking forward to? And what about it excites you the most? I am really looking forward to, just kind of on the topic of the conversation for today, very much looking forward to this summer when I can get back into the ocean and get back into bodies of water. I just came back from the beach and I feel like I have such a strong connection with the ocean. I just feel so amazing and tranquil every single time that I am in it or near it, can hear it, feel the salt on my skin. I just love it. So I'm really looking forward to being able to do that again later this summer. And not only that, but I'm also going to the lake with some friends, and lakes are awesome too. It's just so interesting to me how different bodies of water feel. Like, the ocean can be really scary. In fact, the last day that I was at the beach just this past week, I only got in for a couple of minutes because the waves were relentless and I was a little bit scared. She is powerful. But I also I love the difference between that and then like going into the lake, which is so still. It almost feels kind of like dirty in a way. But then, I don't know if you've ever done this. If you ever swim lower into a lake, have you ever noticed how fast it gets extremely cold? And it's like, that's also kind of a scary water thing. But I'm really attracted to both of those, I guess, scary elements of water. I don't know. I just think that big bodies of water are really nice and I love them. So yeah, that's one thing I'm looking forward to. What about you? Let me know. If you want to, actually, oh my gosh, I just gave myself this idea. If you are listening on Spotify, they have started doing a Q&A section. I may begin writing out these questions in the Q&A. So if this is something that you would like to talk about or share your thoughts about, I'd love to know. Leave me a little Q&A. And don't forget that if you want to make a small donation to any climate organizations, give me a rating on the show or subscribe to my blog, and I will be donating $5 to either Project Drawdown or the Clean Air Task Force, depending on which you so choose. All the information for that is in the show notes, and pretty much everything else that we talked about today will be in there as well. So if you want to get some more information, check it out. And next 2 weeks, I don't know for sure, I may or may not have a guest coming on to talk about healing the earth by going outward. So really actually stepping into community, stepping into your own backyard and getting a little bit more familiar with your surrounding planet. So I'm very excited for that conversation, whether it is just me in here talking to you or if I have somebody with me. But stay tuned. And next up on the blog will be my first ever book review. I can't believe I haven't done one of these yet, but I am going to be doing a book review on The Overstory by Richard Powers, which is something that I actually read a while ago, but it fits so perfectly into this conversation and brings me actually to one last little inward tip for you. If you want to establish a stronger connection to the environment or to your relationship with it, I suppose, one thing that has helped a ton for me is actually literature that revolves around the environment. This could be as simple as The Giving Tree, because let me tell you, The Giving Tree brings all the feels. I read it to a 10th grade class a couple years ago and we literally cried together. So it could be as simple as that, or if you want to pick up the Overstory, which is quite dense, but so beautiful, that's another way. Reading literature, watching documentaries. I just sat down and watched a new Netflix series that goes over all of the different national parks across the world, and it's narrated by Barack Obama, and it is awesome. So familiarize yourself with these things. Start bringing it to your attention more and more. That is one final little tidbit that I have for you about getting more familiar with this and establishing a relationship with the earth. In any case, thank you so much for tuning in today. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you got a little something out of it. Thanks so much. Thank you. I love this little community that we are building, and I hope to see it grow. So thank you so much. I love you, and I hope that as you move on to the next part of your day, it is wonderful and you can look around and appreciate Mother Earth as you do it. All right. I love you so much. Bye.